All right, you know, we're seeing more and more cases of police brutality, and it seems to get more and more extreme. And we're also seeing this within our prisons. And I think this recent story perfectly describes what's going on in the prisons and how it's kind of flying under the radar. What I want to talk about today is Nick Christie. He was a man from Florida. He was a 62-year-old, and he was diagnosed with chronic pulmonary disease. After he was diagnosed with this disease, he became very depressed. And, you know, he had to cancel a fishing trip. He started experiencing all of these episodes, these emotional and mental episodes where he couldn't handle his emotions. He would have all these outbursts. His wife was very concerned about him. But while he was in Florida, he got arrested twice, okay? Now, he went to the Lee County Jail in Florida. And apparently they didn't know how to deal with him, so they decided to start pepper spraying him. They pepper sprayed him at least 12 times, and then they strapped him onto this chair, and what it does is it straps his ankles and his chest. And while he was strapped, they continued to pepper spray him.
They put a gag in his mouth, so I guess he wouldn't scream or cause further disruption.
The gag was actually, it's something known as a spit mask, and they put it on people or inmates so they don't spit on the authorities.
They put the guy in what's called the devil's chair for 6 hours. Now, the guy is trying to tell them that he's got a medical condition and he's having trouble breathing. Part of the reason he's having trouble breathing is they find out later that the pepper spray was all over the gag, so he keeps breathing that into his mouth. In fact, when they did an autopsy on him several days later, his skin was still orange and brown from all the pepper spray. They had done so much. The surgeons, as they were operating on him earlier, when he was still alive, had to keep changing their gloves because they'd get covered in the pepper spray and put new gloves on. And then an expert in the field said the idea that they would pepper spray a guy after he was already strapped into a chair and totally bound up is against all common sense and against all procedure, because the whole point of pepper spray is if a guy is totally out of control, you have no other options, you pepper spray him. But if the guy is completely and utterly under control and tied and gagged, pepper spraying him over and over again, especially when he's a medical condition like this, and refusing to bring him to a doctor, well, that's nearly torture.
Yeah, no, it's not nearly torture. It is torture. They tortured him to death. Okay, pepper spray is supposed to subdue a person that you have absolutely no control over. They had complete control over him. He's in this chair. Okay, by the way, there are states in the U.S. that have banned this chair because of the fact that it could cause blood clots if you are sitting there for a prolonged period of time. And it's just not good for you. There are other ways to handle the situation, right? But, you know, there could be a case as to whether or not these chairs should be legal. But it should definitely be illegal, against the law, if someone is restrained on this chair and you're pepper spraying him 12 times. There were other inmates in that cell with him, and they said, look, we were gagging because of so much pepper spray in the air as they were spraying him.
So, look, he had caused a disturbance, but it's an incredibly minor offense that they brought him in for. Let's remember that, too. Trespassing at a hotel he was staying at. In fact, his wife was happy that they got him because she was worried about him. She comes in and says, okay, thank you for you know, detaining him and getting him under control. I'll take him now. They're like, no, you won't. Get out of here. Meanwhile, she's like, what? She's like, this is an incredibly minor offense, and he's sick. I want to get him some drugs. They left his drugs in the car for 43 hours. Wouldn't give it to him, okay? And then as she was pleading with them to take her husband and bring him to a hospital, etc., they were at the same time, as Anna correctly said, torturing him to death in the other room, in the same building.
Now, they did several things that are considered violations. I want to list them for you guys. So, as Cenk had mentioned, the length of time that they kept Christie strapped to this chair was too long. 6 hours. There's absolutely no reason that he should have been strapped on for that long. Also, pepper spraying him after he'd been restrained. Failure to clean up the pepper spray off his body. They were supposed to do that when they put the spit mask on him, but they didn't. They didn't give a shit. Also, failure to properly evaluate him for mental and physical health problems. When they first admitted him to the jail, they were supposed to do these evaluations, but they just decided not to.
Yeah. Look, when you add all of this stuff up, if you didn't do the evaluation, you could say it's an oversight. It's you did this, it's an oversight. When you put it all together, it's the most obvious thing in the world. They were getting their kicks out of it. You know, they were like, ha ha, we can do this, so we're going to continue to do this. But here's my real concern about this, that this is starting to become something that is commonplace. In the culture, we started torturing people back during the Bush years, And we were worried that it was going to become part of our society. And we said that's part of the reason we shouldn't do it. We're not supposed to torture people. We're Americans. They said, oh, you're being crazy. No, we only torture, waterboard and beat senseless and hood people in Iraq and Afghanistan, Bagram Air Base and Abu Ghraib. Fine in Guantanamo, but that doesn't really count. We won't be doing it here. Until, by the way, we were doing it here to detainees here in the United States. And then, well, you look at that. Now it's guys who were trespassing at a hotel they were staying at, causing the cops a little trouble. So, hey, man, everybody does pepper spray. Pepper spray is now and tasing are the most normal things in the world. And so you strap him to a chair and you torture him. He died, so what? Now, I hope that they're in a world of trouble over this, but what I'm more concerned about is this idea taking hold in the country that doing these things are somewhat acceptable.
Let me tell you who's not in any trouble at all. The people who work at Lee County Jail. Okay, and I'll tell you why. The Florida State Attorney has been asked to review this case. He has, and he refuses to press any criminal charges.
It wasn't like, oh, come on, this guy's crying because we pepper sprayed him a couple times. You strapped him to a chair 12 times. You pepper sprayed a defenseless man over and over and over again until he died. At what point do you think that might be a criminal case you might want to pursue?